We are approaching the business end of the Premier League season, and there is no bigger clash than the one this Wednesday. It is Manchester City versus Arsenal, top of the table clash. Today, we're going to break it down, we're going to analyse it, and ultimately pick a winner. Roll that intro. Welcome back to the Lost in Possession podcast. First things first, do us a quick favour. Hit the like button and hit that subscribe button, please. It's free and it takes 2 seconds. Let's get straight into it. No messing about. As I said before, the biggest game of the season is coming up this Wednesday at the Etihad Stadium. Man City versus Arsenal. The two teams who have run the Premier League this year go head to head in what many are calling a title decider. So we will kick things off. Jamie, we'll start with you. We'll come to the home team first. How important is this game in deciding who wins the Premier League title?
It's a tough one because I actually don't think this fully decides the title race because there's still some tough fixtures to go for both teams. It means if Arsenal win, they're technically got it in their hands to win the title, but then they've got the tough away game at Newcastle, and you've just seen Spurs get battered by them. Whereas we've got tough sort of away games. The final two I want to point out, which is Brighton away and Brentford away. They're tough games to go to. So I don't think it's the nail on the coffin if either team win. But you've got to be, if you win, you're well up for it. Like morale will be through the roof. I think especially more if Arsenal win it, because their morale at the moment, after the last three results, is a bit down. The mood at Arsenal, you've seen AFTV very much on the, City are a great team and all this stuff now, whereas before it was, we're winning the league, we're winning the league, we're winning the league. So it's, I don't think it's a full title decider, but it could spiral into that. Let's say City win, that'd be 4 games Arsenal's not won on the bounce. Do they turn it around, or do they just go to the next game with very low confidence, season in their minds, possibly season over, and then fall apart? But I think Reece will be hoping they don't do that, but he might predict the same.
Yeah, well, Reece, you've obviously been vocal in the last few podcasts about, you were never in the race. Obviously, mathematically, that's not correct. Looking at the points, obviously, where we stand at the minute, Arsenal are 5 points clear. City obviously have 2 games in hand. So it is in City's hands based on that. But if Arsenal do get a win here, suddenly it's then back in Arsenal's hands, despite all the recent negativity, despite the losses and the draws, I guess, the dropping of points. How important is it for Arsenal to put in a shift here and bounce back from what's been happening?
They've got no choice. I mean, literally, they should be 11 points clear, but they threw away 3 silly games. I mean, Anfield probably not, but they've now put themselves in that situation where they've got the hard work, and it's exactly the same as last year. And everyone goes, "Oh yeah, but there's still Spurs to play." They'd already done all the work for Spurs. They were absolutely emotionally, mentally shattered. And everyone's now going, City, what about City? So they all forgot Southampton. They all forgot West Ham, and look what happened. They've literally done it again. They can't cope with the pressure. They have no choice but to go and put a performance in. But they've completely knackered themselves. I mean, we haven't beaten Man City in the league, I think, since 2015. Something like that. And that was a 2-1 home win. Since then, it's been draw, win, draw, loss in the FA Cup. It's been insane. I mean, we haven't even beaten Man City in the last 7 games or something like that.
I think it's 11. I think it's 11 now.
Something like that. And the last time we beat you,
League is 11. I think you've beaten us in the FA Cup in that time.
That's ridiculous. Yeah, we beat you in the FA Cup once, and that was when we went on to go and win it in 2020. That's not good enough. I know Man City are good, but come on. That's
Yeah,
shocking.
I like it.
Shocking,
Like
shocking.
you have other teams who go to say Anfield and have a crap record, but to have it home and away for a team as big as Arsenal, it's very
I
unusual.
know, I know we've been below par for a few years, so you can excuse it a little bit. But if you're supposed to be one of the big teams in the country, your record can't be that poor. And funnily enough, Arsenal's record is genuinely quite poor against all these big six teams away from home, which really does say it all. Um, it's they got no choice but to go there and perform. But I just don't see how they're going to do it. They can try, but they're going to get absolutely battered. They might create some space with John Stones playing in midfield. They might be able to create some space there. But I just look at the team and I just think Saliba's gone. Gabriel, he'll decide when he wants to lose his head, when he wants to lose his head. Ramsdale will either keep you the 3 points or chuck them away like he did at Southampton. There's too many players on there a little bit too unpredictable for me in a game like this, and that's why I don't think they have the mentality to do it.
Well,
I think Saliba being out is a huge blow for Arsenal because he was sort of. I think there was rumours that he might be back for it, but I don't know if that was just hope rather than actual stuff. But him being out, so you've got to have Holding playing centre half. Now he played in the FA Cup against Haaland. He got booked, and arguably I was calling for a red because he made he did two things, and if he does this in this game, he will probably get sent off. He was just grabbing Haaland and just stopping him running, and if you're going to do that all game, you're going to be in for a long night.
And
So
he did that at Spurs last year. He kept doing it, and he got pulled up on it. So I like Rob Holding as a defender, but when it comes to big games like this, you can't have him in there doing that. You're gonna have to move Ben White to centre back. You got no choice. I like Rob Holding a lot, but if he's gonna do if that's what he does, then why put him in? You don't want to go down to 10 men really quickly.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we might as well just get 5 players sent off the pitch to take the 3-0 defeat.
Well, before we move on to sort of breaking it down, who has the edge at the minute? To push back on your point, Reese. Obviously, we've said about the pressure getting too much for Arsenal. They've dropped points now 3 games in a row. Everyone's now saying City have won the title when it's over. No one expects Arsenal to go to the Etihad and win. So, could you argue the pressure's off them now completely, and actually the Arsenal players will bounce back and thrive under this position?
In some ways you can say the pressure's off them, but because they're still top, you can't. I think they know this is, when I say a be all and end all, but I think that's their worst fit. I look at Man City, they do have an attitude of, well, this is our last game, we're going to go for it. I don't think Arsenal have that. They're just too young. And that is what it is. I think they don't look at this and go, let's go for it. I think they look at this and go, oh, good God, like, we're in this situation, similar to last year. What are we going to do? Let's hope it's not 7. It shouldn't be 7, but it could be a 4. They're not careful.
I do think this has sort of come to what we've sort of said. I think it's been the issue. I think possibly since around January, Arsenal have just conceded too many goals, and Saliba was in the side for then. So I'm not blaming Rob Holding. I know I've brought him up, but the defence. But that seems to be the problem. So I'm confident that City will score at least 1. So it means Arsenal have to come and score 2. And defensively, we've improved quite a lot. And you didn't, obviously, different game. It's going to be a different game, but you didn't score 2 at home versus us. So that's where I feel like that's where I'm quite confident in this. But I just think that Southampton game has just flipped it on its head because Arsenal could come for a draw before that game. And now that they have to win in terms of keeping it all in their own hands and let's say no one other drops points, they have to win now. And I think that creates pressure because taking a draw, you're winning or drawing, that's you treat that like a normal game. But having to win, knowing that a draw's nowhere near good enough against the top side, can, I think, give City the edge because at some point Arsenal are going to have to go for it and there will be holes left behind, whether it's in midfield or it's in defence. That's the problem.
I think. I was going to say, sorry, just to jump in, I do agree with what you're saying, and it's changed the mentality slightly now they've dropped it points and they need to win. But Arsenal are not a team who are going to change and start going, five at the back, sit in, let City late siege them. So tactically for the game, I actually don't think it changes anything. If this was like maybe, a Chelsea of old where, a Mourinho Chelsea where they're going to change and sit deep and make it hard. Arsenal haven't been that side this season. So I don't actually think it's going to change the game tactically.
I don't think it's going to change the starting lineup or the first 30, 45 minutes. But there will be a point in the game. Let's say it's 0-0 and we're at the 70th minute. Arsenal have to go for it. And that's where they could be exposed. Late on in the game where they have to win. That's the problem. I think that's why I was still happy after the sort of comeback to get to 3-3 against Southampton. Because I was like, it still means they have to come and win, which means they're going to be exposed at some point. Now, if they get an early goal, it all goes like that, changes it. But that's relying on something quite specific, really, unless they go all guns blazing right from the start.
I think tactically it's a strange game. Man City don't have to go for it. But the power is with them. They know Arsenal can't afford to lose this game. Man City can afford to get a point if they really want to. So Arsenal have to go for it. Them getting an early goal is the worst thing they could get because Man City will just lay siege to them.
Do you mean City getting an early goal? Or
if Arsenal got an early goal, City will just lay siege to that goal. That's not a great thing. City get an early goal, Arsenal will have time to get something back. But tactically, City don't have to go for it. They can just not sit back, obviously, but they know that Arsenal have got no choice. So they'll just wait.
Yeah.
And this is the problem they've created for themselves. And I echoed this a few weeks ago after the Liverpool game. They're not going to cope with West Ham. Now they have no choice but to go to City and win. They could have had those last two games, won those, gone there for a draw or even defeat if they wanted it. They've put this pressure on themselves, and unfortunately, you reap what you sow.
Well, to make the case for Arsenal,
101. Football 101. Don't put yourself in these situations. It's their own fault.
It's the basics of football, as Delph once famously said on Amazon Prime.
But we got well. The way to analyse it, I guess, is to go off the most recent game at the Etihad, which was the FA Cup, and I know I appreciate it was a couple of months ago, but for me personally, watching that game, I thought it was pretty even. I don't think City dominated in the way we've seen them do it to big teams, and I'd go as far as to say it was a bit of a lucky win. A draw, I think, for me, looking at that game, I think would have been fair. So I don't think it's that unrealistic. Like, you just got, I know, obviously, it's beating City at the Etihad. It's not something that happens a lot. But it's just one moment. It's just, we've seen Odegaard and Saka and Martinelli, what they can do. It's just a penalty. It's just a, lucky cross. Like, it can happen.
Yeah, but that was a completely different time of the season. Because then they met, was it a couple of weeks later, and Man City stuffed them 3-1. So it goes to show the time of the season you play them is so massive, because that's where the mentality all comes into it. If we were playing Man City 6 weeks ago, we might have nicked a point. We might have done. But now we're going where the pressure's on. This is the worst possible thing. And let's not forget, the fixtures still to go after. They need to just be careful it's not a cricket score. And as negative as that sounds, that they need to really pull themselves together.
It's not going to be a cricket score.
If
it ends, I think the biggest score it will end is 3-1. That's the biggest score.
Be lucky that Man United can't seem to get their act together. Otherwise they're nowhere near closing that gap, but they need to
agree with that. You've got to think how many points have both these teams dropped, and it's
it's an exceptional record.
You talk about other seasons, like forget before sort of the Pep era of City getting 198 points, blah blah blah. That's not normal, and what Arsenal are doing is actually rising to that level. So if it was just other seasons, like previous to that, Arsenal would be walking the title. So I think it's a bit harsh to say
It's testament to City, though, how high the standard is. You could get 99 points and probably not even win the league. It's
Well,
testament
yeah.
to City. It's also questions about the league as a whole, but testament to City for being able to push you this far. Like if you're gonna win it, you're beating the best team that the Premier League has actually ever had. So
I also want to disagree with Jordan's point about talking about the FA Cup game, because I think City and Arsenal are at different moments. At that point, Arsenal were on I can't remember how, they were unbeaten for quite a while. And that went before the World Cup and after. They might have had Jesus out for that, is the difference. But at that time, City were talked about being completely off it. And people were saying, I think it was quite a lot of Liverpool fans, to be honest, are saying, oh, you're only going to beat City because City are so off it. Whereas now, we're not off it. Like we might be off it on Wednesday, but for what's been showing, we've not been off it. So that's where I feel that's a bit different to the FA Cup game. And I think an FA Cup game, was it the third round I think we played, or was it the fourth? It was one of the two. That means less than what this game does. So the pressure on that game is completely different, I think, to this. And I think both teams are in a bit different moments to what it was. Yeah. But I don't also see it being a cricket score. I see it being tight, and I do see Arsenal having a lot of the ball. But we saw that at the Emirates, and we've seen City fairly recently play Bayern Munich and let them have a lot of the ball. And if it wasn't for a penalty rule in the Champions League, City would have kept 2 clean sheets against Bayern as well. So it's like we can give up the ball and still defend well. Whereas probably back when it was the FA Cup around that time, people would question our defence heavily. So I think that's a difference as well in it.
Yeah, you're hitting form at the right time as well. And
yeah.
I guess that, my next question was who has the edge in this game and why. I guess, we pretty much answered that. Arsenal out of form slightly, City in form at the right time.
Completely out of form.
They're low on confidence, out of form. If you would have said last year, you go to West Ham, get a point, Anfield, get a point, you're not going to be too disheartened with that. They're low on confidence. I think your point about the edges is a good one, because I think, and I always say this, teams that sacrifice competitions for a league, for example, tend to always come up short. And I think if we would have stayed in the Europa League at least, as silly as that sounds, there'd have been a couple of games, I think it would have been Juventus we would have drawn.
Yeah.
We could have, if it could have been now where we'd have lost maybe to Juventus, and then that way we've still got the focus on the league. I think going out of it that early means we've now got nothing if the form starts to turn, as silly as that sounds. It's like, oh, we're out the league. We can go back and you can get it right again. Whereas now we've got no choice. We're stuck with the league. And I don't blame Arteta for doing that. But I also think, if you'd have just held out for another round, we could have at least been looking at a chance to go, okay, we can bounce back better.
I think that does play into what we've previously said on podcasts, Arsenal being a momentum team. When you have to wait a week to change a momentum, it's sometimes not quick enough. So keeping the momentum going could have been a beneficial factor, but I don't think you rested that much. You still probably should have beaten Sporting, and if it wasn't for a nearly halfway line goal, you'd have been through. And then you went out on penalties, and then it's pot luck in that instance. So I don't think you threw it away concentrating just on the league, but I think after you lost, that's when the comments came out more, oh, we'll focus on the league. It was only because you lost. Otherwise, you would have been like, we're going for the double. Like they say about City going for the treble, it's because we're still in it. They said about United going for a treble.
But it gives you that focus. I think it gives you that focus. Like it keeps that head of steam. I know it's very hard to do, and you see that Liverpool eventually on all 4 fronts did when I say disintegrate, they won 2 trophies, but they started to slow down. So it can have that effect. But I think if we had the Europa League at least, there'd be something that's keeping us going, even if it's resting a player, because that's the thing with the momentum. It's like you got to wait a week now to bounce back, and that's very hard to do. Whereas they would have a couple of days, regroup and go. Now they've got nothing to turn to. They can't go, oh, well, look, we're in the next round of the cup here. if we need to, we can afford to throw it out. We've got 2 legs or whatever. And this is what they did last year, remember? Oh, it's all right. We've got a game in hand. Got a game in hand. But you're forgetting who that game in hand is against and the time of the season you're playing them. So when you get to it, you completely crumble because you put yourself under that pressure.
But that could be an
What is-
argument for Arsenal being top
Like
of the league.
50
Because we've
50.
got 2 games in hand. There's no God-given right that we win them. Everyone says we are because we can win them. We can beat any
There
team.
was
That's
that
fair
God
enough.
given right, I
But
think they can.
it's not a God. Yeah, like I said, it's not a God-given that we're actually going to beat them. I think if you ask Pep rather has the points on board because that's actually what you win your titles. The points, not a game in hand here.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I just think
Go on, Reece, go on.
no. I was just, I just think, yeah, that's the thing is I think there's been an attitude of a God-given right. I think the disrespect they showed to Southampton was why they were never going to win it. And it's you can't do that. Oh, it's all about City. Well, no, there is a team fighting for their lives here. Show them some respect. You don't just turn up. And Southampton really took them to school. So, yes, they pulled it back late and showed something, but that's not good enough. Man City don't do that. I'm sorry, they don't. They might have lost to Southampton at home, Man City once, but then they'll go and batter the next team 6-0. Arsenal have really been taught a lesson there, but it's something to improve on. That's what they need to do.
Yeah, and just going back one step to obviously your point about Europa and fighting on all fronts. I think City this season are the perfect example of why you should and can do that. Because I mean, you look at it now, and who do you think's feeling more confident? City, who are in the form of their lives, not lost a game, and have just slapped Bayern Munich out the competition. They're going to be feeling pretty good about that. Whereas imagine a City side who had lost to Bayern and gone out, irrespective of like whether they're focusing on the league or whatever you want to call it. There's cracks there, and there's a bit of self-doubt. There's a loss of momentum. So I think City are proving it right now. They're looking good on all fronts. You might as well just keep winning. You've got the squad to do it. So I don't know about buying this. I've said it before, don't get me wrong, but I'm not sure I'll buy into this sort of focus on this, focus on that argument.
No, I don't think you should. No, I agree.
So let's talk tactics. Let's do a bit of a tactical analysis. We touched on it a bit earlier. Where is this game going to be won and lost tactically? Reece, we'll kick things off for you this time.
It's a tough one because, like I said, I don't think City need to go for this, but Arsenal can leave themselves open. I think Saliba not being there is a big miss. I still have question marks over Ramsdale and how he can deal with particular moments in games. I personally think Arsenal, they shouldn't be too. I think they should just go for the draw. As ridiculous as that sounds, I think play for the draw. Just take it, park the bus, because at least then, look, if City, if they do, go on to win their game, City, so to speak, there's still have a chance of slipping, but it's not going to be a bigger gap in the end. So just take for the draw. That they can't play set piece Arsenal. I don't score from those. I'm
going to touch wood to say you're right there. Not having that jinxed.
I don't see how. Yeah, I just don't see how they've got the players to really do it unless Odegaard shoots from 35 yards or Saka causes some trouble. I don't see
That's
it.
what I was going to bring up because Ake is probably out and he's been our best left back. So that means to me, you're probably going to play Laporte there. I don't see it being Gomez. I don't think he's good enough, especially for this level. You've got Rico Lewis, who could be, but I wouldn't be that comfortable with him playing in this game. He's a good player, but I want a defender playing against Saka, not someone who can come inside and go forward with the ball. It's like I wouldn't really want Cancelo if he was there to play against Saka. So that's where it'd be Laporte. But something I keep noticing about Laporte is sometimes he's just out of position by half a yard, and that's where Saka can jump on it. So I think that's going to be an intriguing battle. Whoever Pep plays left back, because he played Bernardo Silva left back at the Emirates, don't forget, which was unbelievable because Bernardo Silva was booked within 20, 30 minutes. And you're like, I think another one is the midfield, and it's probably the Xhaka versus sort of Gundogan, I believe, will be there in that sort of position. I think winning that battle will determine a lot of the game, especially for pressure on the ball. And if one of them clearly wins it, I think that team's going to be attacking 60, 70% of the game. So that's quite an intriguing one, I think. Obviously, people are talking about Rodri and Partey, just because I think it's whether is Partey going to stick to De Bruyne and Rodri on Odegaard? Is it going to be like that? Or are they going to just try and play their own games and let them have a little bit of space?
Well, Partey might try and see how far over the bar he can shoot it. So that's him doing
the collective groan of no's when he shot against.
I don't know what he. So I think it's safe to say he won't be doing that again. But I get what you mean. I think that's the interesting battle. Yes, they could exploit down that flank there. Pep, I don't think Pep's going to do what Pep does and overcomplicates things. I think he knows this time to not risk that. And, there's no point in sticking Haaland at centre-back. He's going to be real here. I think
he might be good there. You never know.
I think Arsenal are going to look to try and cut the attack as much as they can. That's why I think Partey and Xhaka are going to be quite crucial to that. Kill it dead, so to speak. If they want, Saka might try and get Laporte, whoever plays in that position, to get a yellow. Put them under pressure early. I think their best chance is having Odegaard shoot from distance, because I think he's better at doing that. I think he can drill it from quite a distance, and I think that would cause Ederson a problem, as good as he is. I think Rob Holding, if he stops pulling shirts, he might be all right. It's a real tough one. It's Ben White is a consistent player anyway. It's just how, I think it's just a matter of as long as Arsenal don't.
You sort of said down. Ben White would you'd have him centre half for that game. But then you'd have Tomiyasu on the right.
Tomiyasu, I know Tomiyasu had a terrible game against City before, but he will give 100% Tomiyasu. So at least there's somebody there who's going to do something. I wouldn't be comfortable holding, even though he is a bit of a leader.
Why I was sort of mentioning is that what would you be more happy with? Grealish running at Tomiyasu rather than Ben White, and then Haaland in the middle with Gabriel and Holding, or
it just sounds awful, doesn't it? It's like you looking
over. It's not great for a defender
like King Kong, like coming towards you, and you're just standing there. Like, you got to just let them destroy you. It's just not. It just doesn't look. Put it this way: Arsenal just can't afford to go 1-0 down. They can go 1-0 up, but 1-0 down is their biggest nightmare, because, as we know, they don't do very well, apart from on Friday coming back from 1-0 down.
Well, and Bournemouth at home.
Yeah, I think as long as you don't concede early, I think you'll be all right. You just don't want an early couple of minutes goal again, and then I think you'll.
They've got to keep calm. They know the crowd are going to be loud, so calm it down. Take the sting out of it. Time waste. Take time with throw-ins. I don't care. Time wasting's a good thing. Do it. Just accept that there's going to be time added on. Take the sting out of it. Don't be afraid to pass back to Ramsdale. He'll just pass to Haaland anyway. But he, in seriousness, just take the sting out of it. 15, 20 minutes, take the sting out of it. Let City come to you, because at least then you might open them up. That's the way to do it. But like I said, because they've got themselves in this situation, Yeah,
I don't see that happening personally. I see Arsenal trying to dictate the ball, kind of like what they did at Emirates, where, they had much more of the ball, and they're the ones trying to probe, and then City are trying to pick them off with De Bruyne playing a ball through, for example, things like that.
It also goes down to like the quality that City even have to bring on if they want to. They can bring on Alvarez if they really want to try something different. Like you said, you've got Gundogan there. They could take him off if they want. You can bring. Is Foden fit? He can come on if he really wants to.
He just played on the weekend.
Yeah, so you got that. You got Mahrez if you want to bring him on. They've got Grealish there starting. We don't have that. We can't come on and look to change the game. We can look to probably, we can bring on another defender and see it out. But like, Nketiah isn't good enough. He's not going to come on and win that game unless he gets a clear open chance. But City's defence don't give away chances. You know,
Yeah, but sure, attacking subs would be, from what I've seen, is Nketiah and Nelson. I
this is
think there's
a contrast of what
Got Trossard though. Trossard's chuck in there. He's
well,
the
Trossard as well. Yeah, I
comes
forgot
on.
about him, and he's
Trossard
done
will
well.
start, I think, because Fabio Vieira, I don't think is going to start after that performance.
Definitely not.
I think he'll start, and he'll probably cause some problems, Trossard. But again, I don't think he has that.
Instead of who?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking the front four would be
How he
Jesus.
tactically changes it, because you'll probably have Martinelli starting, Jesus
Mar-
starting.
Yeah, and
100%.
Saka on the right, Odegaard behind. You'd have that as a front four.
You could probably put Trossard behind and then have Partey and Xhaka maybe there or something. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how it's going to work, but if not, Trossard will start on the bench.
Yeah, Trossard will be benched 100%.
He came on for Vieira on
Yeah. I don't. Vieira won't be starting. I think it'll be the front four of Jesus, Martinelli, Saka, Odegaard. Then you'll have Xhaka and Partey behind. That's how I kind of see it.
There's 2 yellow cards already guaranteed there, so so maybe Odegaard might drop deeper if he needs to. I don't know.
I don't think the midfield matters though. For me, like breaking it down tactically, I think the game will be won and lost on the wings. Like you've got some of the most informed wingers in world football on the pitch. You know, Martinelli's sensational. Saka's been sensational. Grealish has found some serious form. And then even Mahrez, out of form, just bangs a hat trick at Wembley. Like,
I mean, got Bernardo Silva, nutmegging Davies, and Brooks going up for fun.
I'd prefer a hat trick, but
oh no, yeah.
At the end of the day, you know that's where City are at. A player out of form just comes on and scores a hat trick, like you know, and to flip that as well. Not only is it positive in attack, but none of these wing backs are good enough, in my opinion. Like you'll probably disagree on Kyle Walker, but you know,
he's not starting.
He's not going to start.
No, because it's going to be the back four. The back four will be it'll be Stones or Akanji at right back. The other will be centre half. Then it'll be Diaz, and then it's going to be probably Laporte when it would have been Ake.
Yeah, but to my point, none of those are natural right backs, so definitely can get exploited by Martinelli. Your left back, whoever that is, even Ake, I'd argue, isn't great as a wing back.
But he doesn't do the wing back. Sorry to cut you off there. He doesn't do the wing back,
but like
he just stays left back kind of thing, and that's where we have the extra. Instead of you having a wing back, we have the centre defender, Stones, goes into the midfield.
Yeah.
Instead of having the wing back. So that's where we wouldn't be as exposed as where, say, like Chelsea do, if they played like four at the back, you've got Chilwell bombing on Reece James. That's where the holes would be. City don't have that in players. So, but I do agree with when you got Martinelli on form, Saka on form, that can cause problems to anyone's, let alone non-natural right backs and left backs.
Yeah.
And their pace might be a problem for him. You know, Kyle Walker's got pace, but he's not playing. It looks like his career's finished.
It'll be Akanji. Akanji's got some pace. He's not as quick as Walker, but I don't think there's many in football who are.
Yeah. The difference for Akanji is he's strong, and I think he might barge maybe Martinelli a bit early or something, you know, give him a little bit of a rough ride. I think the depth is one of the big
while Martinelli's up in the air. Yeah. If he can do it, he can have it back.
I just think the big problem is, I think one of the main things is even just tactics, but just general strength in depth.
Yeah.
City can bring who they want to change that game, and it offers all the different dynamic, and we just don't have that. And that's not a criticism. That's just it. That's just what it is. But you know, you see it in every league. You know how one team is better than the other, but I just think the concern is, you know, I just think Arsenal put themselves in this situation. They've only got themselves to blame.
Well, let's move on to the final bit. We've got to give a score prediction each for this game. I'll kick things off. I'm going to go 2-1 Man City. I think it will be a tight game. I hope it's a tight game. It will be 1-0, I reckon, with about 20, 30 minutes to go. Pressure will be mounting on both sides, end to end. But I think City will just find that edge. Probably a Haaland winner, let's be fair. And they will nick it and inevitably win the title. Jamie?
I'm torn a bit between sort of two results. It's sort of 2-1, 2-0 for me. I think we might just shut out Arsenal and they'll just I think they'd be slightly desperate in a way, and that's where sort of instead of making that final pass, which would have been accurate, they'll overcook it, and that's where I think that's where we could get the clean sheet. But I think the 2-1's probably the safer bet, but I'll be a bit different and say 2-0. And Haaland to get 2, his 50 goals can come up. It'd be lovely.
Reese.
3-0 Man City. It's over. It's
Positive,
done.
positive way to end.
I'm saying it for months. It's done. Done.
There you have it. Man City and Arsenal fans, as always, let us know your thoughts in the comments. Give us your score predictions. If you're right, we might even give you a little shout on the next podcast. But as always, like, comment, and subscribe. You know the drill.
Here we go.